Well, the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 650 points on Monday as coronavirus cases surged, adding worries about the economic outlook after Congress and the White House failed to agree on a much anticipated fiscal stimulus deal. There's no stimulus, nothing at all, despite what YouTubers will tell you. There's no stimulus. All of their focus, of course, was on confirming Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court, which happened officially last night. She's now officially a Supreme Court justice. And President Trump, though, would have you remember during the debate just a few days ago when he said the stock market is having records. The stock market will collapse if I'm not reelected. We will go into a depression. He pointed to Joe Biden. We will go into a depression if I am not reelected. Yeah. Well, your terrible leadership is not making Wall Street very confident this morning. 650-point drop. You know, historically, if you want to go back through history, all the way back to like 1920 or 1908 or something, the week before the presidential election is good for stocks. Yeah, since 1928, the stock market has usually risen in the last full week before the contest. Not this time, though. Something's different this time. It's because we are on the precipice of a disaster, folks. And all you need to do is look at some of the headlines. Just look at some of the random headlines from across the newspapers this morning. Here's one. Struggling rental market could usher in next American housing crisis. That's just one headline. Low-income workers suffer a second stimulus check, prospects are dim. Stocks on slide on coronavirus uptick, fading stimulus hopes. The U.S. and several countries in Europe face elevated case levels, fueling concern over additional restrictions. Yeah, and now we have this new housing data, which is out this morning. And this is really troubling. Millions of renters are now behind on their payments. Mass evictions could come soon. We knew this was coming. I'm surprised that this is like a bit of a surprise to Wall Street. Evictions are coming. Remember, all of those eviction moratoriums are pretty much drying up across the country. The amount of unemployment benefits gone, basically eliminated now. Rental assistance, there's no rental assistance. There's nothing in the way of stimulus to help these people stay in their homes. How many of you right now, yesterday on our show, I asked you, how many of you have been affected by this? Have you lost a job, pay your rent, bills, etc.? And so many of you, it was breaking my heart. I mean, I saw my wife after the show. I said, I couldn't believe it, just like on the screen. And Philip, maybe we can even do that during this segment. Just anyone who's affected by this, just put them up here, Lost my job. There are people saying, I'm homeless now. I'm homeless. Richest country in the world. Someone in my comments the other day said, why do you keep saying richest country in the world? Most people aren't rich. Yeah, we are the wealthiest country in the world. And that wealth is consolidated at the top. And these billionaires who've made billions of dollars more during this pandemic, while low-wage workers were kept out of poverty because of the CARES Act. Here's the poverty numbers. Just take a look at this. The monthly poverty rates before and after the CARES Act. Look at this. Because of the CARES Act, we were kept out of poverty. Yeah, Nancy Dubin, I got a threat of a disconnect, electrical disconnect. I mean, this is real, folks. If it wasn't for credit cards, we've been in serious trouble, Darlene says. Yeah. Affected, Amy Baker says. And the data this morning for low-wage workers suffer as a second stimulus check, prospects dim. Now, if you watched my show last week, of course, you know about the stock market problems that are coming. The stock market problems are really going to be affected in three different ways. The reason we're going to see a stock market collapse in the next few months. We talked about price versus earnings, right? The P&E ratio. So the fact that these companies aren't earning, they're not making money. Government debt, the amount of government debt is off the charts. The government debt is at a level we've never seen before. And the Federal Reserve keeps creating new currency, printing money, if you want to call it that. It's unsustainable. And then, of course, the Buffett indicator, we talked about the Buffett indicator, which shows that the stock market is massively overvalued. Why? Because so many of these companies are buying up their own stocks in these share buyback programs, therefore artificially inflating the stocks. They're not investing in research and development. They're not hiring people. They're laying people off. But see, there's even something that's even more fundamental to all of this, and the reason this collapse is coming, it's because of small and medium businesses. Their collapse is destroying our GDP and is going to destroy our country. So Yelp released their numbers, and 163,000 businesses have closed in the United States since March 1st. The numbers represent an increase of 23% since July. 23% increase in the number of businesses that have closed since July. That at the time is when the count of closures sat at about 132,000 businesses. I hate to see the numbers in the next few weeks. But see, all of the concern, you want to talk about Wall Street numbers being down, there's all this concern about Wall Street, stocks slip because of stimulus. What are they scared about? You know what they're really scared about? Is you not being able to buy stuff. What they're really scared about is the small business that's going to go under and is going to overall affect the GDP of this country. Because remember, these large companies, my friends, do not pay taxes. So how do we raise money in this country? Gross domestic product. How does our country run? It runs on you spending money. And so when we had a stimulus plan in place, guess what happened? Money was spent. The economy kept moving. The government relies on you spending money. Small businesses pay taxes. The difference here is that these large companies don't pay taxes. I mean, the outrage just a few weeks ago about, Donald Trump and his taxes. Yeah, that's normal for these big guys. I'm not going to mention any of these companies' names because I don't want them to file a complaint and have my video taken down, by the way. I'm telling you what, yesterday I even got another issue because I talked about something that the big mainstream media doesn't want us talking about. And I have to deal with that on the back end now with YouTube. So I don't want to mention their names, these big companies that have these offshore accounts, these, they set up, headquarters in Ireland and other places so they don't have to pay taxes. So all of these big companies that pay zero in taxes. And so the way that the federal government looks at it says, we want to make sure they're okay. So we stimulate them, give them trillions of dollars in bailout money because they think they're the largest employers. They're not. The largest employers in our country are small and medium-sized businesses. You know who these big businesses are. I don't need to name names. They're paying zero. They're paying zero. So the way that this collapse is going to unfold is a lack of consumer spending in the next few months, a lack of money going into the broader GDP and economy, the federal government being unable to collect any revenue from taxes, the inability to pay back this debt. And that's why you're starting to see the fracturing on Wall Street, the nerves on Wall Street, because it looks like their heyday is coming to an end. So again, if you've got your money right now in this corrupt Wall Street system, you need to think differently about it. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm telling you, if my 401k were tied to these crooks, I would be concerned. On the show this week, I'm going to show you some different companies that you can invest in. I have no connection to them at all, but they are, I'm a progressive. So I want to be able to invest in things that help people, that are recession resistant, recession proof in many ways. So I've been analyzing a number of companies that invest in clean renewable energy, like geothermal, wind, solar, looking at these different types of renewables that have exploded in popularity over the past few years and have been recession proof because no state government can bring them down. We need energy. We need clean energy, and this is the future. Now you're seeing all of these big oil companies starting to rebrand themselves, starting to move away from oil, starting to try to move towards these renewables because they see the future, the writing on the wall. It's unsustainable. Do you want to be out in front on it? There's billions of dollars to be made. And guess what? At the end of the day, you can feel good about your investing because you're actually investing in something that's not tied to this corrupt Wall Street. But if your 401k, your pension, all of this stuff is tied there, you better start thinking of an exit plan. You better start looking at about how you can, with the CARES Act at least, you can pull that money out and reposition that money because it's coming. I saw this the other day, and this is exactly what I think is going to happen. This meme I saw last night, I showed it to my wife. Right? Isn't that true? Like, look at that wave. How many of you guys have seen this? There's 2020. It's a pretty large wave, right? Is it a 15-foot wave? Look at 2021 right behind it. 163,000 businesses have closed since March 1st. The wave is coming. And it's only going to get worse. And the reason the Federal Reserve is saying that they're going to continue these stimulus plans for big businesses and the banks is because they know the disaster that's unfolding. If people cannot pay their rent, they cannot pay their mortgages, they can't put food on their table, how are people going to pay for going to the movies? How are people going to pay for any of that stuff anymore? So all of the stimulus, the $5 trillion that went to these large corporations, great. Didn't help you. Well, it did for a short amount of time. The peanuts that you were able to get from your federal government, it helped you for a short amount of time. This isn't about handouts, folks. This is about smart monetary policy. This is about smart fiscal policy. This is about your federal government, your Congress, your president saying, here's the real problem. It's the low-income workers, it's the food service workers, it's the hospitality sector, it's all of the engine of our economy that is collapsing. They're losing their houses, they can't pay their rent, they've lost their job, they have no health care. Yeah, but Wall Street's numbers are doing great. Yeah, for a little bit while longer. You ride that wave, Wall Street. Sit back and enjoy that little wave. You're making some good money right now, aren't you? Artificially inflating your stock prices with these share buybacks. Again, CNBC is not going to talk about this because, the problem with, of course, corporate media is that you have 8 billionaires basically that run the show. They don't want you scared. They want you to keep investing in the stock market because they make money when you do that. All of the advertising that they have in every commercial break. Why are there so many commercial breaks during that Squawk Box show? And it's all Wall Street companies that want you to invest with them. Why are they spending millions of dollars on CNBC so you will spend money with them? Why do they need to spend that much money to get you to invest with them? And yet you don't. And some of these renewable companies I'm talking about don't do any advertising at all. There's a reason for that, right? What's the old saying about you don't see ads for broccoli? You don't see anything worth having doesn't have advertising. Isn't that interesting? Michael Pollan said that? Yeah. Michael Pollan, a great book, by the way, if you ever get a chance to read it, The Omnivore's Dilemma. Anything what do you see broccoli commercials? Do you see clean air commercials? No, but you'll see $1 million advertisements to get you to invest with these different Wall Street firms that will make thousands of dollars off of your money. and who, by the way, aren't even investing in the stocks they tell you to invest in. We interviewed a financial advisor who said the reason financial advisors won't talk to you about real estate investing is because they make no money off of it. And one of the things he said is that almost every financial advisor he knows, will recommend all these different funds that none of them own any of. So when I tell you about Outlet, where you can get a 6% return right now as a savings account that's tied to cryptocurrency and not this corrupt Wall Street government banking system. I actually have a lot of money in Outlet. I'm not an investor, but I have my money in a savings account because I walk the walk. I invest in real estate. But these fund managers, these financial advisors don't even own any of the funds they're recommending to people. Folks, if you add all of that up, how can a rational person not think we are heading for a collapse in the next few months? How can a rational person? I had one person leave me a YouTube comment. By the way, I read all of your comments. So if you want to leave me a comment, I read them. Even the ones that are off the wall, I read them. Even the ones that are nice, I read those. Even the ones that are mean, I read those. I have thick skin. Someone said, left me a comment a few weeks ago that said, "What are you worried about, Clayton? The government will just bail them out." Bail who out? You see what I'm getting at here? It's not just Wall Street. It's not like Amazon, these big companies that are going to be fine. That's not who we're worried about here. What I'm talking about is the incredible weight of this economy collapsing because there is no money coming from consumers to buy anything anymore. And the fuel and the energy, the fuel and the entire engine of our economy is small businesses, small and medium businesses. It's not those massive companies that pay $0 in taxes. It's the companies that actually pay taxes, that actually employ more Americans. Over 70% of Americans are employed small and medium-sized businesses that are collapsing left and right. And government sits back and does nothing. Is that surprising? Wall Street says this morning stock investors bets they're eyeing a Biden victory. Pretty much Wall Street, believes that Biden's about to win. I mean, I think any sensible person is. I get a few YouTube comments from time to time that are people like, "Clayton, you're stupid. Trump's the greatest president of all time. He's going to win in a landslide." Okay, we'll see. Let's re-rack those comments in a week. Maybe you're right. Maybe Wall Street's wrong. Maybe Vegas betting odds and all these guys that bet on all this stuff and look at these polls are wrong. Maybe Trump's team is wrong, by the way, because Trump's looking at internal polling. Why has he pulled up shop and not spending money in a lot of these battleground states anymore? And they're repositioning that money in states they hope that they can keep a fire line on, Pennsylvania and Florida. Why are they not spending that money anymore in these other states? You got to ask yourself that question, right? But I'm the idiot. Okay. The bottom line is it doesn't matter who wins when it comes to this type of monetary policy, because we're not getting a stimulus anytime soon. If Biden wins, we're not getting anything until January. If Trump wins, yeah, all of his rich friends are fine on Wall Street. And Mitch McConnell, with all of his big energy money, does not want to pass any kind of a stimulus plan. So you think a stimulus plan is going to come in the next week? No way. This is why 2021 and into 2022, I even saw a separate meme, like here's the 2021 graphic. There was another one that had Godzilla behind it. Like 2023 or 2022 is Godzilla standing behind that wave. It's real. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. I will read them all. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. By the way, we have our daily morning newsletter, which goes out first thing in the morning. You have to subscribe. It's totally free. And hopefully it makes you smarter. It helps you navigate this crazy corrupt world. I'm going to be looking a little bit more closely in the newsletter about some of these renewable companies. You know, some of the stories that we cover in the newsletter, we talk about plastics. We talk about the things that matter to the future of this country. We cover the stimulus. So go to morninginvest.com, please, and subscribe. It's totally free, and you'll get it first thing in the morning over your cup of coffee.